Thanks for joining us this afternoon. You guys are a glutton for CALPADS punishment. We've had several hours of CALPADS quarterly calls already this week, and so I don't know that I have a whole lot to add to what we've already talked about. I'm sure all of you have been attending those. We do have a release going in tonight, and I have a tentative list I can share with you of what's going in. Let me share my screen. So this is, again, tentative. We're waiting for the CDE project manager to give us a final list of everything that's going in tonight. I'll let you guys just read that. I'll leave it up on the screen. If you have any questions on it, I can try to answer them.
And Angela, tomorrow it will show up on our known issue list as being fixed?
It will show up probably later in the day. It takes a while for things to propagate out, and there's some manual work involved. And so on the known issues list, I'll come back to this here, but I'll show you what Martha's talking about here.
Because I'm heading off the questions. Can I get that list? Can I get that list?
Yeah, it will be available in the footer of CALPADS tomorrow, probably we'll shoot for noon, let's say. At the top here, we'll have the recently fixed items, and it'll say fix implemented. And then down below, you'll see new things that were just added. Gary just adds one hot off the press. The Center 262 is happening. So let me pull up our tentative list again. We did get the direct cert file back from the state, and so that is loaded into CALPADS, so you can get your May results. And we are still having stuck jobs for some LEAs, so they're still frantically working on that. I think they're making progress on it. So more news coming. And start off with some questions. Laura, Q1, as someone who attends one of the first SIMs due to our region, I want to suggest that all content be the same for the SIMs. I think you're talking about the quarterly meetings. I know for the majority that it is. However, today was the second time I was made aware of information announced at another region SIM on the listserv. This causes confusion, frustration, and concern. We might have missed something. I also understand wanting to announce exciting wins right now. However, an email from CSIS to everyone would be much less disruptive. So I'm not quite sure what you're referencing. Perhaps it was the TOMS update that they had.
But that did go out to everybody. That was a listserv.
What else did Brandi announce? The SPED redesign is postponed. I don't think they had that on the first call.
The delay of the snapshot, maybe?
You mean EOI, but that was a listserv to everybody. But yeah, maybe the SPED redesign, because that was, but I thought we had that yesterday morning.
Regardless, I agree with your point, Laura, that they should be consistent across all 5 of them. And I believe that Brandi does her best to do that. Okay, Elsa, after Tuesday night's upload to TOMS, a number of my IFEP, RFEP students reverted back to EL. Can I expect this to be corrected with the next CALPADS to TOMS upload? Yeah, I thought that they did correct that, Elsa, so that's concerning.
I would put in a ticket, Elsa, because we're not real up on all of the things going on in TOMS.
Yeah, it's well outside of our control here. But we can help you figure out what's going on. Hey, Daniela, will the new T168 and E156 exit codes result in dropouts if there aren't subsequent enrollments? Typically, yes.
I think that's what the T168 was meant to help with, so that if there isn't a subsequent, that the dropout wouldn't be the independent study school or the alt ed school, because the kid was discharged and they're not responsible for, the student. And so it will help in designating who owns the dropout if there is no subsequent enrollment. The E156, that is more about continuing on as a 12th grader. And if they don't show up, they already have been counted on the cohort as either being a completer or not a completer, right? So they don't get marked as being a dropout, I don't think.
What about for, off the top of your head, Martha, for DAS schools?
DAS schools, I don't know. That's a very complicated calculation. Without having reading the technical guide and refresh my memory, I couldn't say.
I probably shouldn't have brought it up. It says CSIS and CALPADS. We don't have a DAS report, so we're not super familiar with what accountability does on that. But I do know they have a 5-year cohort. Wendy's looking for a miracle. Oh, me too, girl. Colleen, is there any way to preview the new language code set now? Why, yes, there is. I'll put this in the chat for you, Colleen. You can see it on my screen.
Where is that located?
So it's the SEDS, the Common Education Data Standards. Can you see it on my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just doesn't look like a CDE document. Oh, it's at the ISO, which we're adopting. Got it. Now I understand.
Okay. Tanya, college articulated courses need to be CTE courses.
Nate, you may be more familiar with this since you got ready to do EOI. Can you say any more, Nate?
Well, it's a CTE articulated course indicator. So in CALPADS, the only articulation relationship you can state is for CTE articulated courses.
Do you know what documentation has that info?
If you look at the CFS forms,
there is also a validation that looks for it if you have a CTE course.
They have to be a CTE course to be articulated.
in the course tab or course,
Do I have the right data element up?
that's it.
Articulated courses have to be CTE courses.
All right,
Otherwise, you will get an error.
Thank you, Nate. Natasha, Angela, and Gary, I do appreciate your sense of humor. Thanks for understanding. Yeah, that's the only thing holding us together these days. Shelley likes the frightful weather.
Well, some people may think the heat is frightful, but I rather enjoy it.
Me too. Denise, given the current state of things, can we take ODS extract, e.g. SELA, to reconcile and update SIS? I heard there is a memo advised against doing so right now. Where is the memo and any ETA on resumption? We're in the middle of state testing. I would be hesitant to do that, Denise, just because some of the known issues are related to migration of SELA data that it didn't all come over. And so what you grab from the ODS might not be quite accurate. So I would hold off. I'm not familiar with the memo, Martha. Do you know what she's talking about?
I think Flash 221 just kind of talks about, suggested ways of getting SSIDs. I don't think it goes into reconciling SELA. So I don't believe that there was an actual memo specific to the SELA, but, it's inferred by having those migration errors with the SELA, that defect, that you would want to be very cautious on using the data right now.
Okay, Jan, oh boy, my favorite topic. R transactions. Regarding the issue with R transactions, we are looking at changing our extract, but need to determine if just creating 2 records, 1 delete for the existing record and 1 new record reflecting the change. But we want to confirm with CALPADS that that would be processed correctly in the same file by the system. Because of this existing defects, we are unable to test any of these potential scenarios properly. In legacy GM, that would have been perfectly fine. I can't say for sure in current system. It seems to be having lots of problems if you try to do 2 things at once in the same file. I can test it or in the staging environment with you if you want. We could just create some dummy data and see what happens. And I would say if it doesn't work, I'll log a bug for you because my expectation is that you should be able to, the system should be able to handle that kind of scenario. Reach out to me if you could. Stephanie, if a district LEA has a student who will enroll with them in August, but they've already held an IEP for the student, should they affirm the IEP now? Won't it cause an error because the student is not enrolled currently with them? They are not pre-enrolling the student in pre-K. He will be a kinder in August.
Mr. Joe Tan is on the call, is he not?
Yes, I'm here, Martha. Thank you. So Stephanie, please refer to CALPADS Flash 207. It basically tells you there's 2 options. Since the student is going to be enrolling in August, you could either elect for option 1, which would actually say that you could actually report that IEP when the student enrolls, or if you prefer option 2, then you could actually submit an N470, I believe, and that is detailed in that Flash 207.
Thanks, Joe. Melissa, do you recommend uploading the EOI files, or is it better to wait until after the EOI window opens? Well, in the before times, I would highly recommend doing it now so you can kind of get a sense of where your errors are before people start going home for the summer. So you can send it back out to the school sites. I don't know if what's the right word, safe to go back into the water right now. Things are pretty volatile. So if you have the luxury of waiting, maybe wait a couple weeks and then do it. And just in case you don't have that in front of you, in the footer of CALPADS is the known issues that gets updated multiple times a day. So review that, and if it seems like those bugs aren't going to impact you, go ahead and give it a shot. Harry, CTE question. We have 2 high schools using the same courses for a CTE pathway. One school has 3 courses to complete the pathway, and another school wants to introduce an additional course, making this a 4-course pathway. Would this cause issues as to the course level possibly conflicting between a concentrator and a capstone for the series? Hope that makes sense.
I kind of think when you have to designate somebody a completer by positively sending in a CTE record that says, here's the academic year that they became the completer. And we don't calculate that. So I think that this would be okay, because when one school designates that they're a completer, whether they did the 3 courses and the other school designates them as a completer because they did the 4, that's up to them, right, to that designation. So I think it would be okay. Terry?
The other thing, though, that I think, if I can raise just something to think about, is when you're sending up that SCTE record, it's comparing it with the student course section completion, making sure that you have a capstone course for that pathway. So if one local course ID can only be mapped to one state course code, right? So you can't say that that same course is a concentrator in one school and then a capstone in another. You have to create a separate course to have those separate state course codes. That makes sense.
Good point. Yeah.
Okay. And Angelina is happy that 5989 is going to be fixed, and I have that highlighted up on the screen. And the other bug that's similar to that is 5996. So both of these are getting ownership errors incorrectly. So we're excited about that. And Christy is right. If it says, she says, I thought SPED 334 and 335 was being fixed, and I believe it is. I just haven't gotten the official list from the CDE project manager yet, but I believe that I got a verbal yes that that's going to be included in tonight's fix. Dana, do we use exit reason code 168 for any long-term independent study student or ISP student who is exiting the ISP school and returning to their resident school, or is it only when they weren't meeting the requirements of long-term independent study?
It's when they're being discharged. And I think it's because they're not meeting the requirements. I think that's the nuance. Because if they're just transferring back, it's not that they're being discharged because they did not fulfill their contract. Although, I don't know. I think I've heard Brandi say that, yes, she could use this T168 when they leave a IS independent study school.
I'm not seeing the SPED errors on your list for tonight. What is the status? So the 2, 335 and 334, I'm pretty sure they're going to be included. At least that's what we were told. Doug, as a high school district, I am wanting to hear about what are the appropriate examples of using exit reason code T168 and E156 for students attending the charter school in our district, students referring back to their comprehensive high school from the charter. Is this a valid use of T168? What is an example of E156? I can start with the second one there. E156 is typically going to be your 5th year seniors or your students with disabilities who will continue on until they age out. So T168 are the charter schools. So it has to be an alternative ed or an independent study program, so not charters, Doug. And I have it up on the screen if that helps you at all.
And the intent of this was to help with figuring out who owns the kid if they don't come back to school. And so it started off with some kid that was, offered independent study or an alternative ed, but they didn't fulfill the contract. So the alt ed school said, okay, you didn't do the contract, we're sending you back to your comprehensive school and they're responsible for you. And so that the alternative ed wouldn't get dinged with the dropout if the kid never shows up, because they were just helping out. Kid didn't do what he was supposed to. So ultimately the comprehensive school was responsible. So by using the T168 at the alternative ed school, it helps show that the student failed to fulfill their obligations and was discharged. And so with independent study, Brandi said something about the responsibilities of independent study, and that's why I think sometimes it's okay to use the T168 if they're not meeting their obligations or if they're just deciding to go back to the comprehensive school. But we should wait for Brandi to weigh in on that particular. So hopefully, Doug, that was a little bit clearer.
Can you text her, Martha? See if
Sure.
she's available. Everyone is saying that they got bumped out and they weren't able to get back in. So I'm assuming Brandy's not on it either. So I thought, this is Brenna, I thought 404 and SPED 334 and 325. So I talked about SPED 334 and 325. Yes, they're supposed to be in there. Again, that list I have is tentative. I don't have a final list from CDE. 404, I believe that it got it cut in recently, or it is going in tonight. Again, that one's a little fuzzy. It's outside of the normal CALPADS routine. So I'll need to get clarification on that for you. Okay, Eugenie, I want to make sure my notes from the quarterly update yesterday are correct. Is the SPED file redesign now delayed to academic year 23-24? Correct. Too much happening right now. Okay, so Ethan's following up on Laura's point here. Our team has attended several of the quarterly meetings. As an example of one thing that changed between the AM and PM meetings yesterday, after the first meeting, we believed that TONS had received a manual sync file that was up to date through 5.3. In the afternoon meeting, Paula Mishima clarified that it was only through 5.1. I haven't seen that information anywhere else. I only heard it verbally during the second call. I would agree with you, Ethan, that that's kind of how that played out. And I don't know if they're, here comes Brandi. So we can ask Brandi if they can send out another message. I think there's a couple other things still going on with TONS too. So Carla, I know new reports are going to be created for EOI 1, but will there be a report that will only list the courses that we use in CTE Pathways? Currently, 3.15 will list all students enrolled in a CTE course, regardless if the course is part of a CTE pathway. When looking at data, we would like to only filter on students who are currently taking an intro, concentrator, or capstone class, but we don't have a way of doing this. It would help if 315 had the local course title.
Some changes may not be what you're looking for, but I thought 315 was being modified, right? It won't have any completers on it, just participants.
They were trying to differentiate, she was trying to differentiate the ones who just took the course for the sake of taking the course versus the ones who are in a pathway. So that's what she was trying to track. So maybe
I think we're removing that column, right? I don't think we're putting the pathway on there anymore. Do the analysts recall from your report mapping updates?
So I think for now, what you could do is run a local query of all the courses, of all the students that she has in a pathway, and just match, compare it to the list. But then if they have specific course codes or course sections specific for students taking a pathway, differentiated from those who are not in a pathway, then it would be easy. But then that should have been planned ahead of time.
Bottom line, folks, is for concentrators and participants, you're going to have to do this from your SIS. You can't do it in CALPADS anymore. Because really the only thing we're tracking is completers. So you're not going to be able to make that differentiation in the CALPADS reports.
So I thought, write a report locally in your SIS.
Yeah.
So Brandi, thank you for joining us. I know you're probably wiped out.
I am wiped out.
Sorry, we'll try not to lean too heavy on you. We had a couple things that I just wanted on your radar. One is that again, sharing of different information at the quarterlies, and one of the examples we got was that a morning meeting we We believe that Tom's had received a manual sync file that was up to date through May 3rd. In the afternoon meeting, Paula Mishima clarified that it was only through May 1, and we didn't communicate that to everybody else through any kind of listserv message.
So if you could take that back.
And so there wasn't a listserv message sent that should have clarified that.
I didn't get one. I only got
Did
the
listserv message not say that?
I got the first one that said everything's better now, and then I didn't get a follow-up saying, whoops, it was only through Sunday night or Monday morning.
Okay, so I can have them send another one out. And
check your email first, because there's some, I had a couple other things from Paula in there. Something about the IDA indicator.
Yeah, I haven't, and folks, I haven't checked my email at all, so I have no clue what's going on today. None.
She's been presenting for 2 solid days, so yes, I'm sure she's got a mountain of emails to come through.
Yeah.
And the other one was clarification of the T168. When can you use it for independent study?
You know what?
That's why I said we need a FAQ for it, Brandi.
FAQ. Yes, I know. I actually heard those words come out of my mouth just about 10 minutes ago. T168. When is it appropriate to use T168? It's when a student is being discharged from either an independent study school, not an independent study program within a school, but an independent study school, okay? And it's because the student is not meeting the requirements of independent study, okay? By law, LEAs have to send a student back to their comprehensive high school if they're not meeting the local requirements for independent study, which is established by your local governing boards. Okay, so that's one scenario in which you use it. The other scenario is for students who are in juvenile court schools, who are, do like a week, 2-week sentences, and then they're discharged and they're sent back to either their home schools or another alternative institution or another school. So when that happens, that juvenile court school doesn't have the option to just enroll them back. The student doesn't have the option to go there again. So you could use T168 in that instance. Okay. Then E156, well, they're not asking about E156. Right?
No, the T1, isn't it also an alternative ed if they go to an opportunity or whatever, they don't need the contractual obligations, and the alt-ed school is sending them back.
Right. If that school is sending them back because they're not meeting the requirements for attending that school, then that's when you use it.
So for an independent study, if a student just decided they want to go back to comprehensive, could you use a T168 or should you use the T160?
If the student is voluntarily electing that?
Yes.
Yeah, no, you should use T160.
Okay.
They're not discharged. The student can go back if they want to.
Okay. We needed you to clarify that piece. Thank you.
And the other one I wanted you to verify, Brandi, is the new requirement for socioeconomically disadvantaged for the highest ed level for both parents. And do they both have to be non-grads, or if one is non-grad and one is a... Say it again?
They both have to be non-grads. Once we start collecting it for both parents have to be non-grads in order to count as socioeconomically disadvantaged. Okay, so a lot of districts are kind of freaking out about this, but very honestly, folks, the difference between free and reduced price meal kids and then those that are only whose parents are not high school grads and are not free and reduced price meal eligible, the difference in those numbers is so statistically insignificant. So what I mean by that is, you think that your SED numbers are going to go down. However, most of the students whose parents are not high school graduates are also free and reduced price meal eligible. And so it's a very, very small number that will be collected in addition to your free and reduced price meal eligible students.
Stephanie, my early graduates are still showing up in TOMS as requiring testing. They are exited as E230 completion status 100 in my SIS and CALPADS. Do you know anything about that, Brandi?
You know what? I didn't hear the entire question. Sorry.
So her early grads they're exited in CalPADS, but they're showing up in TOMS as needing to be tested.
When did you exit them?
Yeah, if they've been exited and it's that exit date is prior to the current date, and they're still showing up as being required to be tested, then yeah, that's a problem with the export. So please send in a ticket.
But that still needs to be updated, though. There are some reports that haven't been included yet, but maybe 90% of that is still valid. Actually, yeah, 100% still valid. You just have to add more. I think the EOY1 reports aren't there yet, the 3.19 and 3.20. But other than that,
I thought we updated that, Karen, but maybe not. Okay.
March 2022.
yeah, we'll update it. Yeah.
Because we knew what the summary changes were. Okay.
All right, Kay, can I start uploading the discipline files for end of year 3 just to see what needs to be corrected in each file? My last day of work is June 30th, and I'm trying to have all the data in the SIS as clean as possible for my successor. Well, sorry to hear that, Kay. We enjoy working with you. Yes, you can. I just worry that there are a lot of bugs out there, but so buyer beware, I guess. But yes, it's fine with us if you want to start uploading your data. Oh, and Colleen, she's on it today, that she's got the link for the EOI checklist. Angelina and Martha, you commented about the ODS reports. Do you mean all of the extracts? So if the nutrition department wants to pull past direct cert extracts to check if the district qualifies for SEP, is it possible for it to be inaccurate also? Oh, no, that was me, Angelina. And this is Angela Ratty. I was talking specifically to the SELA ODS extract where the migration of ELAS data didn't come over for everybody correctly. So I was leery about having you guys reconcile to potentially a bad file, but the direct cert's fine. So go ahead and hold to your heart's content. Okay, Kenna, for MIDS, if a student completed the test, then I combined the SSIDs and that SSID was retired, will the student still receive credit for the test that they completed, even though that SSID ended up being retired after they completed the test? Yes, we send a reference table to TOMS every day that says, these are retired SSIDs, and this is what they were kept, the one that the associated kept SSID. So they'll be able to translate that in their system. Rebecca, we have an incident that the school admin documented as possession of a pellet guns, pellets, extended magazine with a student offense of 102 and a weapon category of 40, but this combination is not valid in the valid code combos and in the code sets. The 40 states that this category should not be used for imitation firearms. So what is the proper way to input this info into our SIS? Do we just use 30 for other firearm with a 100, 101, or 104?
Okay, is it Kyron or Nate that knows the discipline stuff?
Well, I believe there's a valid code combo that will help, but I think there's a imitation firearm code.
Yeah.
She's saying it's not a valid code combo. So
102 is not part of the combo. It's not there. So it's basically a weapon. It's not a weapon.
Right.
That's what I was.
The feds don't consider it a weapon.
Right.
Okay, so she can use that combo then, right? Is what you're saying?
No, she shouldn't.
There is no combo. Yeah, it's not considered a weapon. There is no combo.
Oh, I see.
Imitation firearm
is all you need.
Yeah, the offense code is.
There is no weapon category,
right,
for code 102.
Just leave it blank for that one.
Got it. Jan is talking about the language codes. I think she's asking for the one that links existing 2-character language codes to the new 3-digit codes, and that does not exist yet, right, Brandi?
The mapping? Yeah. We made it available to vendors. in the
Oh, you did.
in
Okay.
the box site. Yeah.
So can we make it available for LEA users as well?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
But Jan has access to that.
She does, but we can make it available for LEAs at some point. Sure. I think we may do it when we send the message out about all the changes.
Okay, so follow up to Stephanie's question about socioeconomic status. So if one parent is a grad and the other is declined to state, would they still qualify?
Not a
Well,
grad.
not a grad, sorry. Yeah, if one student is not a grad and the other is declined to state.
No.
Declined to state nullifies it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't get counted at all.
Hey, Larnie, what cohort outcome category will the exit code T168 be? A dropout, transfer code, etc.? Is there a guidance in using T168, maybe a consequent enrollment to another school district in our another school in our district?
I think it
Cohort.
depends on whether or not they show up.
Right. And they lost transfer.
Right. If you're telling us they transferred back, or you were transferring them back, they were discharged. Will that, okay, so I think what you're kind of getting at is, if we're telling you that we discharge them, why are you holding us accountable if they don't show up where they were supposed to go? Right, so it's a really common problem. Right now, in discussions with our accountability office and AMARD, they are reluctant to modify the dropout reporting rules. So right now, the last school that owned the student, if that student doesn't show up where they're supposed to go, is attributed with the dropout. And, you know, barring any additional discussions, that's not going to change.
But it's helpful information to know if we have a lot of that, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Could sway a decision.
Yeah.
Okay, Charlene, our CAASP testing staff said could see some students in TOMS a couple of days ago, but these students can't be found in TOMS today. Could the data processing between CALPADS and TOMS have anything to do with it?
I wonder if they're part of a MID or something.
I mean, I would definitely check in CALPADS to look at their data to see whether or not they look like they have current enrollments, or if someone may have changed something about those enrollment records. I mean, that's the first place I would start.
Chatter here. So Jan, regarding Pathways students, what they are trying to do is find a way to validate the data in CALPADS against their SIS. The only way to do that is to be able to run a query in the SIS similar report available in CALPADS.
I think that has to do with the 315.
Yeah. They're basically asking for a brand new report in CALPADS to verify the data in their SIS.
I think you should wait for this EOI to happen, because we made changes to those reports.
Yeah, we did. And they're major changes, you guys. They're not like little changes. They're,
right.
You know, the CTE participants report is really at a
course level.
Well, industry sector level.
Yeah, there you go. Industry. We took away
right?
pathways.
So it is not at a course level. We're not putting individual courses on this. So yeah, those reports have changed. So Jan, wait until the reports come out so you can see what is being aggregated, and then you could do a comparison report and figure out in areas what they need to be able to validate it. I mean, and really, in my mind, it's just the difference between any student who's taking a CTE course and which subset of those students are CTE pathway completers, which kids have been identified as a completer. Because anybody that's been identified as a completer should not show up in the CTE participant report. What's left in the CTE participant report is any kid taking a CTE course that has not been identified as a completer. That's essentially it.
Okay, Wendy asks, does it matter if a student is exited with a T168 from a JCS, which I'm assuming is Juvenile Court School, does not enroll anywhere, and then ends up back in the JCS?
The system
No.
looks for subsequent enrollments, right? So it doesn't matter.
It's not going to be any type of ERD anomaly or anything like that.
No, not at this time.
No.
Cedric, we have an EL student who first enrolled in the US in August 2019. They stayed a month and then left the country until enrolling in our district in January. They do not qualify for the ELA SBAC exemption because they are technically not within their first 12 months of enrollment, even though they should have only spent 5 months in a US school. Shouldn't TOMS be looking at the cumulative time in school?
Is that something you got to chew on, Brandi?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that I can answer that. They are using the date first enrolled to determine students who have to take the SBAC, and they're using that initial U.S. school enrollment date. We're not using any sort of cumulative.
Would ETS
Even
be
though
the
they
right
left.
people to ask that, or who's a good support desk for that kind of question?
Probably the assessments office. So don't have like a general. I can look for one. A
Okay.
general email.
Okay,
Just
thanks.
the assessments office.
Hey, Russell, for the upcoming change, is it true we have to go back and ask for parent ed status for both parents if we do not have it? Can we just put a decline to state and gather the info moving forward?
The latter, right? Because it's not critical. It's for going forward for determining first generation college students.
Well, but it's also socioeconomically disadvantaged status. So
That's true.
it's up to you. I mean, very honestly, if you say we don't want to resolicit this data and we want to populate it with decline to state, that is a local decision. But you just understand. And even though the implications are, as I said before, minimal, because the difference between students who are free and reduced price meal eligible and students who are whose parents are not high school graduates, it's a very small number of students that actually fall into only the non-high school graduate category and not the free and reduced price meal category. So just know that.
And Brandi, when you say that, the parent ed level puts you in social economic disadvantage, but that doesn't make you eligible for FRPM. It just, right? Because FRPM,
Right.
it has nothing to do with parent ed level. But
Right.
it has social economic disadvantage as a subgroup on the dashboard. And it's just another way of a student qualifying for the social economically subgroup is the parent ed level. But it's a very, very small difference of who would be put in that group if you had correct parent ed level, from what Brandi said.
Oh,
Russell, talk to your administrators what they want to do, because that's a heavy lift to resolicit, I'm sure.
so T. Nelson asks, will students qualify for free reduced if they only have one parent, not a high school grad, and if they only have one parent, i.e. one parent is deceased? Well, it's kind of conflated two things there. Parent ed level is not going to qualify a student for free reduced meals. It's socioeconomically disadvantaged is one discrete category, and then there's FRPM eligible. That's a separate category, and they have different criteria. So the high school grad status of the parent has to do with the socioeconomically disadvantaged determination on the dashboard. In our shadow support team, the teacher formerly known as Joshua is correct that if you only have one parent guardian, just leave everything else blank on the other one. You don't have to report anything. Maria, I'm getting errors for SPRG programs 185, 192, 162, 162, and 101. Is that a known issue? That depends. I would need to know the error number that you're getting, Maria. So we do have a fix going in tonight for GER5, if that's what you're getting on the SPRG. Otherwise, I'll show you how to do that. This one's going to get fixed tonight. What you could do is check the known issues by just do a search. Oops, nothing there. Boy. So look for the error number on the known issues there. And if it's not there, then you can put in a ticket with your job ID and the error number, and we'll take a look for you. Yadira, scenario, I have middle school kids that are being exited out with a 160 and then enrolled at one of our elementary K6 because they are now going to be independent study students, which is where the teacher of record is assigned. Shouldn't we just create the teacher, in FTE at the middle school and use the program change 440 because I'm getting errors that students are not in our LEA or grade range incorrect? Well, that was a lot, Yadira. 440.
If they're middle school and you're trying to enroll them at an elementary school and it's not within the grade range offered at that elementary school, you're going to get that error. But if that's actually where they're going to be administered, that's where their principal is, you need to have them submit up a change to the EDS office to modify their grade range offered. Because now those independent study students are going to be a part of that elementary school.
So Joshua has a recommendation that his school, they set up a TK through grade 12 independent study only school. So that's another alternative.
Yeah, that's a little more intensive because you have to get board minutes and you have to establish a school and has to have a separate administrator, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Okay, Carol, if we only report one parent in the SINF, I'm assuming that we only need one education level code, correct? Is that a workaround we can still use until we can get the second parent ed level question in our registration app? It sounds to me like they want to collect both guardians, but if you don't have it, don't have the ed level for the second guardian, you could put decline to state for now until you get that data collected. Karina, what is the process for a student in the middle of testing, but their SSID was retired? Will the in-progress test merge with the replacement SSID once ETS receives the merged SSID list, or will the student have to start their test over?
That SSID will be replaced as long as the student has not tested under the SSID, the new SSID. So if you had a mid, the student tested under one of those SSIDs, as long as they haven't tested under both of the SSIDs, ETS has a process where they replace that SSID because we send them a list of the retired SSIDs.
So she's specifically asking, they were in the middle of testing when it got retired.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So if they're in the middle of testing and that SSID is retired, ETS is going to replace that retired SSID with the new SSID or vice versa. Just as long as they haven't tested under both of them.
So help me understand that a little better, Brandi. What would be a scenario where they ended up testing under both SSIDs?
Because there's a mid.
They didn't realize it.
Students. Yeah, they go over as two different students. It's happened before. I would say that doesn't make any sense. You created two different SSIDs for a student at the same school, right? So how are you testing them twice? It's happened. I don't know how it happens. I'm just telling you it does.
Okay. It's too late in the day. My brain is starting to hurt.
Or in some cases, Angela, they've completed testing under one of the SSIDs. And then a mid is created, and they test under the second SSID. So they've started another set of tests under the new SSID. So, and that's also a scenario.
So, Brandi, is that why you guys recommend the assessment coordinator really has a handle on the students that are listed on the mids? Or have mids?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that
That's
was in Flash 221.
Yes, and you guys, it's 4:00, and I do have to go, so I will not be able to stay on later.
I don't blame you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Brandi. Have a great evening.
Okay, bye guys. You too.
So we are at 4:00, so I am going to cut it off here. At 3:53, Brandi sent out the link. I think this is for Cedric's question about who to ask the Tom's question. So it's casp@cde.ca.gov. Carol, any idea when the ODS report, specifically 8.1, will be available again? I use that regularly. My understanding is that 8.1 is working. Does anybody know any different?
Maybe with all of the data migration, we're getting some strange results.
I would say put in a ticket, Carol, because I don't think we have known issues on that.
I
one.
thought somewhere there was.
Nope, there isn't anything on the known issue. So I'd like a ticket for that if you could, and we'll figure out what you're looking for. Hey, Kara, we had heard that SPED 334 and 335 would be fixed with tonight's update, but these do not appear on your table. Any updates on these errors? Yes, that was a tentative list that I got. So we're waiting for CDE's project manager to send us a finalized list, and we're being told that 334 and 335 are on it. So fingers crossed. Elizabeth, weren't we supposed to always use the parent with the highest ed level to enter? So putting declined to state could bump those students out of whose current parent ed level is not a high school grad. Granted, it would be a small number, but could have some ramification.
You're correct, Elizabeth. That's a way of thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so apologies, we're not going to be able to get to everybody's Q2s today, but I think between the quarterlies and the office hours and today's Q&A, I hope you got your fill of CALPADS. We will be back on Friday for additional office hours, hopefully with a better functioning system after the fixes go in tonight. And with that, I will say have a good afternoon, and we will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye, folks.